Thank you, Chair. Look, just firstly, at this point in proceedings, I think it's worth reminding the committee that all the witnesses so far have failed to recognise that the settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are illegal. None of them have done it either in their written testimony or in answer to questions from this committee. That's a fundamental point of divergence at the very start of this bill, which is what we're discussing. Okay, and we as a committee have to write a report. I also think it heavily caveats, with all due respect, subsequent arguments and testimonies that have been given by the witnesses in terms of arguing against this bill. If they fundamentally don't believe, which they do not, that the settlements are illegal, because that's contrary to EU law, UN law, the ICJ, and the shared majority, if not consensus, political view of this committee. We may disagree on other elements of the bill, but we don't disagree on the settlement. So I think that's a fundamental point here in terms of this entire hearing, is that there is that fundamental disagreement. So we diverge at the very start with all witnesses on this, and I think it heavily caveats. Now, my question, I think, Mr. Cohn, Rabbi Vida and the other two witnesses, is you say that this is the only time Ireland have brought in such a bill and targeted Israel and they're the only country that Ireland's ever targeted. But of course, in 2014, we had an identical ban was passed in Irish law prohibiting trade in goods and services with Russian-occupied Ukraine. Do you accept that as a precedent, and that Israel is not the only example of the Irish government deploying such a law?
Answer that question, because there's a technical
with all due respect, Mr. Shatter,
there's a technical legal issue involved.
With all due respect, Mr. Shatter, you can come in after I've directed it.
I would like to defer to Mr. Shatter on that.
Okay.
Yeah. The boycott or ban the deputy is referring to was one agreed at European Union level by European Union states to be imposed on Russia for its aggression. And there's no similarity of any description here. And Deputy, your depiction, if I may briefly respond to it, and the focus on occupied territories, I don't think members of this committee want to explicitly state that East Jerusalem should be Judenrein. No Jew should ever set foot in it or live there. No Jew should ever set foot in the West Bank, never mind live there. And no Jew should ever work with Palestinians together in harmony to generate economic benefits to all.
No, that's in the general head of this bill.
But this is what this bill affects.
No,
and if one
that's
example,
your interpretation of it, Mr. Shatter.
No, Deputy, let me conclude, please.
Heavily.
I'm
entitled to come back. I've 1 minute left, but I'm sorry.
I'll allow you a few extra seconds. You just finish your piece, and we'll come back to you.
It's a quick point. The Barkin Industrial Estate on the West Bank employs 20,000 people. 10,000 are Israelis, 10,000 are Palestinians. It survived this continuing conflict. They work together in peace and harmony, have done so for many years. It's the type of thing we need to see. But if goods were imported from the Barkin Industrial Estate into Ireland, if this bill was implemented, they would be confiscated, it would be illegal, and people could be prosecuted for trying to sell them in their shops.
Witness,
so this is where this bill creates division. It doesn't bring about reconciliation.
Again, and just another, because I'm running out of time now. You mentioned as well that all the areas are in Area C. Not all the areas in Area C. Not a big point, but again, it's another example of throwing in, something as a fact when it is not a fact. And I have to say, excuse me, Mr. Shatter, lauding the aid that's been given by the Humanitarian Gaza Fund is unbelievable. I think it's the biggest act of hubris and misinformation, and saying that we, who have been engaging with the NGOs on the ground, have been receiving testimony from those that have been delivering it for decades and are no longer able to give it, to then turn around and say the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is somehow doing a great job. I think that's the height of hubris, and I think it's something that needs to be disregarded by this committee as well when we're doing our report. Thank you.
Senator.